Hi and welcome everyone. My name is Kartika Nair and you're watching Synchro Shakti. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because this is where you get all that knowledge you need to take your life to the next level. Today I'm here with Shivani and Bogdan, and we have officially started our very first episode of Conscious Relationship Talks. So today here we're going to discuss about conscious relationships. You guys asked me a few questions for them and I'm going to ask them the questions, and I'll also interject with my own opinions on certain things. So I've known Shivani here since she was 12. So here's a little clip of a video that we did back in 2013. Hi everyone, Namaste. My name is Kartika Nair and this is my channel Synchro Shakti. And today we are with Bijal, Yogi, Shivani and where's Khushi? Hi everyone! So this is Khushi. And then now this is Shivani. Now, 2019. How awesome. So we're gonna, first I'll ask you guys to introduce yourselves, okay? Either y'all can go one by one. Let's start with Shivani first. And then after that we'll start with the questions.
Cool. So, hi everybody. My name is Shivani Ray. I'm a keynote speaker, singer-songwriter. One of the first things that Karthik and I did together was learn music from you, sing together. We have clips online that we will not send you the links for.
That'd be embarrassing.
So many bloopers.
Yeah.
And I've been speaking about personal development and on stage since I was about 8 years old. And this is Bogdan.
Hi,
my better half.
I'm Bogdan, and my focus is on education, and that's kind of how we met, how our relationship started, but we'll get into that. Yeah, I'm an author, a speaker, a coach in the field of education, personal development, working on moving that kind of forward, and that's how we kind of met and what brought us kind of all in this journey here together.
Yeah. So Shivani's dad is my ex-boss. So I used to work for their family when I got out of university, for those of you who know that story. And this is the Shivani I was talking about. So we'll get started with the first question that I think everyone has in their mind, and that is, what is a conscious relationship according to you guys?
You want to go first?
For conscious relationship, for me, I guess this is a term we first heard from you when you introduced this and put together this idea for this interview. For me, it's I guess about growth and kind of working together on the same kind of team against one's kind of biases, unconscious, whatever, the things that even they don't say like about themselves or want to improve, want to kind of grow beyond, compared to say a normal relationship, which would just be say about maybe staying at the same level and not kind of cooperating in that way. That would be kind of the distinction that I would draw from it, and that's what we kind of look to do.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, I think I can add to that, and I think let me take a step back and view what I definitely know is not a conscious relationship, because I think it's important. In a lot of today's couples, I see a lot of times where people get angry over petty little things and don't work on fixing them. It's like, this is my way, and there's a lot of ego coming with that. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of breaking that down and viewing, hey, we're both people, we're both we might not be at the same level, we might be at different levels, but how can we work together in creating a great relationship? Because there's a reason you get into a relationship in the first place. But then understanding what that reason is and what do you want out of it. Because I think also the end, like, where do you want the relationship to go? That's not what a lot of people are thinking about when they first get into a relationship in today's day and age. I see a lot of kids, I say kids, but I'm basically their age, get into a relationship with a very one-minded, oh, I just want a girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, whatever you want to call it, relationship. And it starts off on a simple basis of coming from either a friendship state, a lust state. It's not a big picture. It's just one part of what I believe love is, which is so many different things than just love.
Right.
You know.
Right. So I wanted to add to that is, so when we talk about conscious relationships versus unconscious relationships, the biggest distinction that at least I would make is what Bogdan said about being on the same team against working towards breaking down your own biases and your own unconscious behavior that is showing up in the relationship, and it's not me against you, it is us against what we want to work through and kind of build from.
100%.
So the best part is, a lot of people blame the other person for everything that they're feeling instead of taking responsibility for what they're feeling. So it's like, you have to make me happy and you need to fulfill me, not realizing that, hey, maybe there's something in me that is, some form of wound that is causing me to take everything personally and then pushing you down, saying you're the reason why. So when it comes to conscious relationships, is you cannot get away with the blame game.
No.
You have to take responsibility for your own inner nonsense, and of course talk about it. So it's not like, okay, I'm not even going to talk about it. You will discuss it, you will try to come to a common conclusion, but it will not be, it's all about blaming. Okay, that brings me to another question, which I don't know is in okay, so this is something we discussed, and it's not in the question that you guys asked, but this is the topic of cheating. Okay, now I know that's kind of a weird, uncomfortable topic to jump up in the middle of an interview, but I wanted to ask your opinions on that. Why do you think people cheat in so often and so common in today's world?
Okay, so there's a lot of really harsh things around cheating. And I think, yes, of course you're going to feel hurt if somebody goes out and cheats on you. But coming from a cheater's perspective, now I'm not a cheater, just want to put that out there, but coming from that perspective and like what they're going through, I think it also comes from a space of, hey, something is not being fulfilled in the relationship you're in. Like there's something missing, whether it's a let's say somebody's not spending enough time with you, or it's just work for them and you're secondary in your mind, or whether that physical stuff is not there. It's all important in a relationship. So it comes from a space of a lack of something, and hence they go out to somebody else to fulfill that need and desire. And most of the times when people go out and cheat, it's physical. They go out and cheat physically and have sex with somebody, and then the other person gets mad and there's a huge blow up and stuff happens. Now, the reason why it's physical is because physical is the most easy way to gain that feeling of love.
It's an instant validation.
Love, validation, that feeling of connection, and it doesn't matter who the person would be because you're going to feel connected whatever which way it happens. So I'd say that it's the feeling of something is missing that makes somebody go and cheat.
And then on the flip side of that, people don't tend, from what I've seen, to cheat if they're truly happy and fulfilled in what they have. As in, imagine like a house. If you have everything you need inside a house or inside a restaurant, you have all the things on the menu that you want, you don't tend to go to another restaurant, or at least not on that time.
Yes, and to add on to what you guys said, so now you might ask yourself, okay, I'm not really getting what I want in this relationship, so should I go cheat? On the flip side, it's kind of a question everyone might be asking. Right? Don't do that. Nobody even knows that your need is not being met because there's no communication. So usually communication comes off with aggression, and you don't understand. Instead, there's other ways of communicating. Like in NLP, we learn sandwich method, where you put together, what you want to say in between two positive statements, so the person doesn't feel attacked, but they actually feel like you're communicating, and then they can hear what you're saying. So things like that I think is very important in conscious relationships.
And on the topic of communication, in the first couple days that we got together, we put some like ground rules in place for us, and they weren't really rules, they were just more like, hey, this is kind of what I want.
It's a code of honor.
And so one of them was honesty, that we're always going to be 100% honest with each other, even if the other person's not going to like it. And secondly was communication was a big key for us. I'd say that if communication wasn't a big key for us, we probably would not be here. There's a lot of times we've had arguments over, just different views on stuff, and we've always communicated about it. Now, we've learned how to communicate about it over time. Like in the beginning, there were times where something would come up and we wouldn't talk to each other, and we'd go off into our own spaces and then come back and talk. But at least there was some level of communication that we had beforehand, and it's gotten way better since. But I think one of the key statements that we said very early on was communication is key, we gotta share. I don't know what's going on in your head. You don't know what's going on in my head. And to be on the same page, we have to communicate.
Yeah, and you can't expect, so when you get into a relationship, don't come with the expectation that your partner has to agree with you on everything.
Oh, yeah.
And if they don't make that as a reason to dump them or to think that they're not the one. Oh, when it comes to the one, that's like a whole other conversation, right? Who is this one for us out there?
There's too much like energy around. There is one person out there only for you, because I feel like that's
then
not
you
the
can keep
case.
dumping everybody who come because there's something about them that's not equivalent to the one. You can drop off. We'll discuss that later. But I think let's look at some of the questions that we had. So here I asked some of you guys to shoot them some questions. The first question is it okay if one partner is conscious and not the other one? So how do you deal with one partner is, being conscious and taking responsibility while the other one is being a douche?
So that's a good question. For me, I guess, firstly, I wouldn't view it so binary as conscious, unconscious, as if there's like this magical line that, hey, you're unconscious and you cross over this line and suddenly you're conscious. For me, I would view it more like a scale. Like, hey, you become more and more conscious, and I guess it's a never-ending.
It's an evolutionary process.
Evolutionary process. So there's kind of
It's
that first thing. So it's not that one person is unconscious and the other. They just may be different parts of the journey. And then, can it work? I guess it could. It goes back to communication. Even if different people are at different parts of this journey and have different ways of communicating it.
I think it also, let's view it as, hey, one person's not necessarily conscious and one person is. I think it comes down to the fact of, are you going to bring that person, are you going to work together to come to a common, hey, this is the journey that we're going to go through together to get to this point? Because let's say this person is, the unconscious person doesn't want to go on the journey and doesn't want to get on the same page, then you know what, it might not work. But let's say that this person is like, hey, no, I wanna work with you, I wanna get to the same page, then it's a journey that you take together.
So I guess.
So be patient.
So I guess it doesn't. It matters more where you want to go than kind of where you are right now.
So you would say it would help if couples had like a code of honor that they discussed of where they want to go as a couple.
Oh,
their values,
definitely.
their code of honor, where they want to go. Really just communicate.
Okay. Awesome. Let's look at the next question. As a couple, do you guys have fights and arguments, and how do you handle it?
All the time.
That's another thing. Okay, so when people think conscious relationship, they think it's a relationship, and nobody
Nobody
fights.
fights. Kumbaya all the time.
They just meditate together.
You know what's funny is I was watching an interview that Leelu Mace had done of Deva Premal and Nitin, who do Kirtan Rock.
Okay.
And so she asked them the question, and they've been married for 800 years, okay, really long time. And so she asked the question, what do you guys do when you guys argue? And she's like, oh, we never have arguments, we've always been conscious. And I looked at that and said, not relatable at all. Okay, so let's look at that. Let's look at how do you guys in a conscious setup. When I say conscious, they're both taking responsibility and have a conscious goal in the relationship. How do you guys deal with fights and arguments?
So I'll be honest. On the way here, we stopped for lunch and we had a disagreement. And it's funny because when we have disagreements now, we get it out of our system and then we're like, okay, here's why I'm saying this, and come at it from a more like, hey, this is where I'm at. I'm not attacking you. This is not what I don't want you to make you feel a certain way. This is what I've noticed. This is how it's making me feel. What can we do about it?
So you guys are not attacking each other and saying, you pissed me off, you need to apologize, buy me some earrings.
We're taking we're taking our ownership of how we feel of a certain situation, of something somebody else does. There's little things that may come up. Like, for example, one of the early things that I think, what's an early thing that we disagreed upon?
Those core differences would be things like food, don't be about.
So I'm a foodie. I love food. You give me anything, I'll go to a country just for the food. On the other hand, he's a raw vegan. So he has a very strict way of how he eats. And frankly, one of the things that I admired about him first off was the fact that he was so dedicated to the thing.
To keep.
Yeah. Little did I know that I'd be like, hey, I want to share food with you. I can't do that. All these little things. But eventually we got to a certain point where it's like, hey, no, I respect what you eat and you respect what I eat. And at first, like when we first started dating, I felt super uncomfortable, going to a restaurant and ordering whatever I wanted to order. And then over time, we came to a same page of like, hey, I respect you for how you want to eat. You respect me for how I want to eat, and we'll just keep the journey going along with that. And when stuff comes up, we'll take care of it in the way we need to. It's all the journey. But yes, we argue, we fight sometimes. If you want to label it as fight.
Yeah, okay. So so let's say you guys had this super nasty fight. Let's be real, okay? You guys had this super nasty fight, and at some point, I'm just gonna move this here. So at some point, you guys are now in 2 separate rooms, and there's all this energy between you guys. How do you actually deal with that in the moment?
So I think walking out of a room is actually a good thing sometimes. It allows us to kind of settle. What did you say?
Yeah, it allows kind of the emotions to kind of wear off, or at least that's how it's been.
So you don't attack each other and you can process.
Yeah, that kind of internal process. And
sometimes, so I'd say walking away and coming back when you're in a more, logical state of mind. Because there's one thing, like when you're in the heat of emotions, a lot of times you tend to let go of all the logicalness.
So you'll attack, basically you come from the emotional
it's just pure emotion at the point. And you're angry and it's going to fuel it and it's going to keep going. So taking a step back and just taking a minute to breathe, recalibrate, think about what you're saying, and then come back and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I lost control of my emotions and I got a little bit upset. Can we sit and actually talk about it?
Yeah, and then on the flip side, you don't even have to go into separate rooms. It's just a time. At times we just we're in the back of a taxi or whatever, and then we're just quiet for 30 seconds, and that's enough processing time.
Yeah. So it's good to take out processing time. Don't construe that silence as something's terribly wrong.
Yeah, no. I think the silence really, really helps.
Good.
Okay. It allows your brain to think for a little bit. And I don't like, hey, some people are like, go to sleep, and don't go to sleep angry, blah, blah, blah. But I personally wouldn't want to go to sleep angry because I can't sleep. My brain's going to keep thinking about it and processing it. So there's a couple times where he's totally fallen asleep on me.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I wasn't done. I need to talk this through. Eventually I fall asleep and we sort it out. And I think the time that did happen, I told him the next day, I'm like, I can't do that process. For some people it might work, hey, sleep it off, talk about it in the morning. But for me, I'm going to keep thinking about it. So I was like, hey, if we're in this situation at night, can we please talk about it in a manner before we go to sleep so we can have a restful mind. Because I'm somebody who just cannot sleep at night when I have too much going on in my head.
Okay, so essentially take our time to process your stuff, then don't go in the attacking mode expecting the other person to understand why you're upset. Process it and then communicate, right?
Yeah.
After a number of arguments, you start to see these patterns. And we realized that a lot of it came from those differences. A lot of it just came from, hey, we just had different ways of being raised. If you look at our identities, who we are, what we believe, what we do, is based on kind of a past experience of things that you picked up along the way. And we realized, hey, we're having this disagreement, we have a difference. And
where does this come from?
We ask ourselves, where does this come from? And very quickly we're like, oh, my parents, my grandparent, my tradition, my culture, whatever. And she goes, oh, my culture. And we very quickly realized that, hey, we basically were kind of raised into this specific point of view, and that's what kind of creates a conflict. It allows us to go, hey, had we been raised in your situation, we would have probably had your view, and vice versa.
So just understanding where it comes from. I think a really powerful question is, okay, where is this coming from? Because when you take a step back and you understand each other's perspectives, there's literally no reason for fighting anymore. Because you're like, oh, well, you were raised this way, I was raised this way. That's just a difference. It's just the way that we are.
So would you then say that true love is finding a way beyond conditioning and really learning to accept each other the way that you are?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think I think it's the understanding. Like, one thing that we both are really, I think, happy about is the fact that we both came from personal development backgrounds. And so much of that is uncovering who you are, respecting other people for who they are, and understanding that we're all made up of so many different aspects. And so for us, when we see when we see each other do something, we know where that's coming from psychologically and from an emotional basis. And so there's no reason for us to be angry because we understand it. Like, so early on, we were like, damn, personal development. he just fast tracked us.
So essentially, a couple learning personal development together also helps them in relationship wise as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible for any conscious relationship to end or break up?
So the reason I highlighted it, because I thought that was such a cool question. I wanted to kind of discuss it because I think it's possible, and I totally think it's possible.
Oh, it can end, and it can end in a destructive way. It can end in a beautiful way, and it doesn't have to end with regret. And I can't believe she did that.
Exactly.
He did that.
Exactly.
It can end as, hey, this was a beautiful number of whatever months, years together, and now it's time for a new stage in one's life.
I think there are now conscious uncoupling ceremonies also going on. Even conscious divorces are happening now.
Nobody's gonna read your mind.
That's a big one.
I think that's an important point, though. So having that kind of clarity up front, and being, because a lot of people stumble into a relationship. They see someone, and then
it's like thing.
It's very reactive compared to going, hey, here's what I want. Here's what I would actually like from someone. One of the most powerful kind of relationship exercises I've seen, even before we started dating, was this idea of going and writing out who would like this perfect person for you look like. Writing out these different psychographics, demographics, things like that. And they're not going to match all of that. There's no one person.
What do you say?
That's going to be my next question about the one, but
but you're going to find people that are great, that match what you want. Plus, if you have that in your mind, it becomes easier to find that type of person. You'll know when they do come. You'll know that they came into your life.
I want to say something really that I think some people will find amusing. So before we started dating, we were having a conversation. So we worked together for about 2.5 years or so together at a company, and we were interns there, and we were spending basically 24/7, almost 9 months in a year together, and we were really, really close friends. So he'd seen all my ups, all my downs, seen me at my worst, seen me at my best, like everything beforehand. So when we did get into a relationship, it was far easier to kind of just let it all go. With some people, it might take them some time to get to that point. But I really think it's just about, hey, just putting yourself all out there. Now, what I was going to come to is the fact that we were sitting across from each other a couple months, I think, before we started dating. And we were having a conversation while doing some work in a coffee shop. And we came across the conversation of describing, who's the kind of person that we were looking for. And so I went on saying, I thought the person that I was looking for was going to be someone just like me. Someone who, loves food, loves adventure, loves going out and having fun and just being the life of the party and like that kind of stuff. But it turns out I was wrong. And during the conversation I was saying this, I was like, I think I need someone who's, the opposite.
Complimentary to you.
Yeah, complimentary, who balances me out, grounds me. And I was saying all this stuff, and he's sitting across from me, and he starts saying, I'm looking for someone who's this kind of person now. What we didn't notice until later was we were describing each other. And I look back on that conversation, I'm like, how did we not
It wasn't the time, I guess. It was
not the time. And later on, we started having the conversations. I'm like, do you remember that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, wow. We literally were describing each other.
Right.
And so I think that's an important key for people as well.
Okay, so I have another follow-up question from this. So a lot of people have this assumption, at least this is something that I had in the beginning, is that if the person you're with is not exactly like you, that means that they're not the one. Have you ever, so what advice would you give to people out there who are with people who are more grounding or more complementary to them instead of exactly like them, and then they have this mental idea that they're not the one?
I would say it definitely takes more work to be with somebody who's complementary to you or opposite to you, because you have to keep finding and tweaking and changing and growing together, because you're with someone who's not like you. Of course you're gonna have issues and stuff will come up. And then for those people who are with people that are just like them, hey, there's nothing wrong in it.
It's a nice balance also. You guys have things that are in common with your personal development, and you have things that are of complement.
Yeah, if you're completely opposite,
if you
then
don't
it might
have
not
any
work.
similarities, then there's a kind of logical, does the relationship make sense level?
Again, you can question that as well if you want to go. So, love doesn't actually have a condition. You can still love, even if you guys are completely different. But a lot of people have not yet loved themselves at that level of their own. So that's like a topic for a whole other discussion. But when it comes to this concept of the one, a lot of people, at least I've been through this journey myself as well, is questioning whether somebody is the one because they're not like you in many ways, or not like what the movies have told us, or what music has told us the person is like, or how a relationship should look like. And so they kind of dismiss good relationships because of the ideology of it not meeting what the one is like. So I'm of the belief that the one is whoever you're with right now. If you can make it work, you make it work. There really is not this, you're in the wrong path with the wrong person. I think it totally depends on how much of healing you can do within yourself and how much of healing you can do together as a couple. But what is your perspective on the one controversy?
So I'm a total romantic, and I think for the longest time in my head, I was like, yeah, there's this person out there for me, and I'm gonna fall in love, and it's gonna be like one of those fairy tale movies. Over time, I realized, hey, that's I don't think that's actually true anymore. Like, if you meet someone straight off the bat, like a romantic movie, by all means, like, applaud you. But like, for majority of us, it's a journey and it takes time, and some relationships might not work. And I think also within the concept of relationships and love, there's some relationships that are there to help you learn and grow about yourself, about love, about what you want. And there are some relationships that I feel like, hey, do you see this future with this person? And really, hey, are you willing to work towards that future with this person? And it's just about asking yourself the questions about what you want. Because you can be in a relationship right now and be like, hey, this is the one, let's make it work, let's I love you for who you are, and we have our challenges, we have our differences, but I don't see myself with anybody else. Like, I go, and when I'm out with other people, that are especially like other guys, I come back and I'm like, Bugs,
this is why I'm with you.
This is why I'm with you, but also like, hey, I realize why I love you so much, and it's not because of the physical attraction or just because you're smart or intellectual, but it's like the meaningful little things it's the little things, and I should know because I'm tiny. like the little things mean so much. But it's so much more than just a overarching thing. So I think it's really just about questioning, hey, what do you want? And are you willing to work with it with the person that you're with, or do you not see that long term? And do you feel like you need to go beyond that, or
I think
question it?
I think your logic, or at least the mind, is very cunning, and it will convince you whatever you're trying to. So when you say, can I see myself with somebody else? The mind is very cunning there as well. They'll be like, oh, you know what? Because into the mind, there's always someone better, and
someone better, something more shiny.
Shiny object syndrome. That's always there. But if you're gonna operate, so again, in spirituality, we say that you use your mind for calculation and stuff, but you don't use it for your relationship. You use your heart for your relationships. I think the whole thing is not to look at the one thing logically, but to look at it from your heart. If you were to release every form of conditioning you have around what the one should look like, and you just experience love from your heart. See, we don't experience our relationships, we experience our thoughts about our relationship. So if our thoughts are full of comparing other people, movies, this, that, then it's going to always take us down the wrong path, and you might actually miss out on someone that could be really good for you. But your logic, and I see this with clients as well. They so turned off by men who treat them very well because they're not used to being treated well, and then they'd be like, that's not the one, I need the bad boys or whatever. So I think you need to go beyond conditioning in mind and into your heart and really ask yourself, see, the one you're with is the one for you. That's it.
I think also talking about love. One thing that I remember, I had a conversation with my dad, and something that he brought up was early on, and when we started dating, was like, hey, love is not what you think it is. I was like, what do you mean? Like, at the time, I was like, I'm obsessed with you, and I don't care what my parents...
Infatuated.
Oh, yeah.
Chemical high.
You go through that, for a little while, and then you get to a realization of, like, where we're at, where you want to go. And it's definitely, like, after the honeymoon phase when you really experience that deep connection. And anyways, so back to what my dad said. He's like, love is not what you think it is. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, most people have a one-minded view about love, and they say I love you mindlessly, but they don't understand where that word love is actually coming from. And I was very intrigued by it, and so I asked him to, explain it to me. And he goes, love is, broken down into so many parts. When it comes to a romantic relationship, it has parts of, friendship, it has parts of lust and physical attraction and intellectual, all these bits and pieces that form love. So you may be attracted to a person physically for the first time and then develop other things over time. But I will say that if you don't have, more than one or two of these things, then you're probably not compatible for each other. And so you need to have a combination of all these different aspects. Like, one thing that we had straight off the bat was friendship, because we've been friends for so long. And, intellectually, because we were working together for so long. And then physical attraction. So, like, it builds upon each other. But if you only have, one or two, it probably won't last.
Or but would you say you can also work towards building?
I'd say that too, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It depends on what you want.
Yeah, so we were talking and I said that there's a lot of unseen kind of consequences of that as well. If say that you're with someone and say your parents or family or someone disapproves and your kind of first maybe instinctual or something response is, if my family can't be with this person, then I can't be with this person. One part is, hey, you may decide to go back out on your own and look for someone else that your family approves of, but that could lead to not just the kind of collapse of that relationship, but also resentment later on. Because a lot of people, I've seen this kind of, some of the client stuff I do, people later on go and resent certain people because even though they weren't actually forced into that decision, they feel like they were forced into it. So say that you ended that relationship, you may go on 10 years or 20 years later and end up resenting your mother, father, grandparents, whoever it is, because they didn't force you into it. You kind of forced yourself by kind of processing it in that way, but they feel like, and you kind of blame them. So I think it's incredibly valuable to talk and see how you can make that work, especially since people usually have initial judgments, but those initial judgments can fall away, can change, especially as people actually get to know each other. There are so many people, I'm sure if you're watching this, that people that maybe you didn't like at first, or someone who didn't like some person at first, and then grew to like them because you discovered something about them, some commonality, something that you cherish, something that you admire.
So just we've been lucky that both of our families have been so open and so great. Like, we're the first people outside of where we're from to be dating other people outside of where we're from. So we've been incredibly lucky that my parents are my mom and dad, they're super open. They're like the most unconventional parents out there.
They're single-handedly the reason why I do what I do.
And Bogdan's parents are just amazing and have been so open to me coming into the family, and I love them so much. But for those people that don't have that situation. I think just, hey, having a conversation and just really putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and being okay with being vulnerable. Saying, hey, I love this person, I plan to be with this person, and, either...
But then also ask yourself if you really love the person.
Yeah, of course. You evaluate that up front. If you're going to have this conversation with your family, be sure about it.
When I say sure, it's not like just a lustful thing, because that's what people think is love. I saw him on the other side of my class. We did a dance together. We won the best couple dance.
He sharpened my pencil.
That's infatuation. You don't know anything about them. You don't know how they'll treat you. You don't know how they treat their own family. And then you say, I'm in love with the person. And then, of course, they abuse you. They mistreat you. And then you say, I'm in love with this person. So you've got to question whether it's love or addiction, which is two completely different things.
Definitely.
Right?
So firstly, just know what you want. Then secondly, if you want to go and make this, something long term, and your family doesn't approve, or evaluate what you want. Whether it's, hey, I don't care what you think, family, I'm gonna go do what I want to do. But if you actually, want to have that conversation, have everything be open and everyone be loving, at least find a place where you can talk and be like, hey, I love this person, I respect this person, and I know that you love and respect me, and let's see if we can find something that works for, some common ground, whether it's just...
You can speak, you can talk, you just have to ask yourself whether you're willing to do that, because don't put yourself in this guilt trip of, because my family doesn't approve, so I'm doing something terribly wrong by standing up for what I want. I think
a lot of the time that can fade away as well. Especially with time. There's a great quote that goes like, time heals what reason cannot. I think that's Seneca. So at first someone may not approve, but it's only because of, again, that instinctive kind of first impression of, hey, like for her, we expected an Indian man, or for me it was like this Polish...
It wasn't,
for me it was like this, not in our case, but maybe for you. For me, like this Polish woman, she just came to Poland, she spoke to all my family, even though she doesn't speak Polish. I was translating the whole thing, so it's very unconventional.
So unconventional.
But with time, as they get to know that as well, things can change there as well.
Fantastic, awesome. So thank you guys for coming today in this episode. I hope you guys took back something from what they spoke about, shared about. But I think the reason I wanted to bring them on is because they're young couples who are not at each other's throats. It's not like, why did you like her Instagram picture? It's not that. And I think that's what I wanted to bring out, the alternate experience of relationships, how they can be. And I think the maturity you guys have in yours is really good. I think that maturity, if I show it on camera, can help inspire other couples out there who may want to take from this. This is not like a value thing that's saying moralistically you should be this way. Do whatever is inspired for you, but just for those who are curious about how conscious couples operate, I thought this would be a good idea to do this.
I think it's a great idea. It's something that I've been thinking about as well. Because I was like, I look at so many couples our age and I'm like, why?
Why so much drama and
so
pain?
much drama, so much pain, so much breakup, back together, he did this, she did this. It's not needed.
And it's a lot of it is chemical addiction to the other person.
It's true.
So I think that this is a really good conversation. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And guys, if you have any further questions for them, we'll probably do a part 2 or something like that.
That would
okay?
be great. Yes, we can do a part 2. And if you ever want to message any, both Bogdan and I.
So if you want to contact them, I have put their links in the description for whatever you guys want, however you guys want them to connect with you. You can ask them questions and all of that. And of course, if you have any other further questions for me, you can always contact me. And the links are in the description. Thanks again, guys. I love you all. And thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.